Thank you, Yon, and thank you, everyone. Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon and good evening to all attendees online as well. Yeah, welcome to Science Day Symposium today. My name is Juhyun Park, and as Yon just mentioned, and I'm the Secretariat of the IMO as the SPO in the Office of London Convention and Protocol and Ocean Affairs. It has been a while since the Science Day has been held at this IMO headquarters, London, in 2017. Actually, for me, this is the first time participating in Science Day, and I'm really excited to be able to welcome you to London and very pleased to deliver an introductory presentation. So, yeah, before we get into the presentations, I just wanted to provide a very brief overview of the London Convention and Protocol and CCS. Today's Science Day is attended by most of the delegates of the scientific groups meeting this week, along with a lot of additional experts, particularly in the topic we are covering today. We are really interesting presentations covering details today, so I'm not going to explain everything in detail, but I will just briefly introduce London Convention and Protocol first, because I'm aware that there may be people online who are not familiar with the treaties. And then I will present the progress on the London Protocol amendments to regulate CCS. So London Convention and Protocol, they are two separate global treaties that prevent pollution from the dumping of waste at sea. The first one was the London Convention, which was one of the first global conventions to protect the marine environment from human activities. Subsequently, countries adopted the London Protocol to modernize the London Convention with the intention of replacing it, and the protocol entered into force in 2006, and currently it has 54 member states. The protocol provides a precautionary approach, which means under the protocol, all dumping is prohibited unless explicitly permitted. So now I want to show you that what types of waste can be considered for dumping at sea, which is stipulated in Annex 1 to the London Protocol. Basically, all forms of waste are prohibited from being dumped at sea. However, according to the London Protocol Annex 1, 7 types of waste can be dumped at sea under specific conditions. Also, the conditions are outlined in Annex 2 of the LP. As most of us are aware, in 2006, contracting parties decided to include CO2 streams within the list of materials can be considered for dumping in Annex 1. And as I just mentioned, the Annex 2 of the London Protocol stipulates the circumstances or conditions that dumping permit can be issued. With that, the waste assessment guidelines, they are providing a more detailed assessment process. I don't believe that I need to explain every step in this slide here, but I just want to highlight 2 points, just because they are similar to the case of CCS guidelines. First, these 8 steps of the guidelines, they are aimed at minimizing the impact on marine environment, and they are quite common steps applied for other specific guidelines for assessment. So you will find a similar process in the specific guidelines for CO2 streams. Second, this process consists of 8 steps, but it's not a step-by-step or a linear process. As you can see from the diagram, this is an iterative process with many feedback loops. And now I'd like to move on to the background of why London Protocol began to regulate carbon capture and storage at sea. CCS technology is really not a new concept. It has been developed and utilized for quite some time. However, with recognition of its role for achieving the net zero goals by the COP17 meeting or IEA's report, the deployment has gained momentum in recent years. Because the London Protocol really aimed at protecting and preserving the marine environment from all sources of pollution, contracting parties have been responding to regulate the CCS. So now here, we can see the brief progress of the London Protocol amendments for regulating CCS and CO2 export. As I mentioned, in 2006, contracting parties adopted the amendment again, decided to include the CO2 streams in the LP Annex 1. This was to provide the basis for regulation of CO2 sequestration in subseabed geological formation. And this amendment came into force shortly in 2007. Subsequently, in 2009, contracting parties adopted the amendment again, and this enabled the export of CO2 streams for sequestration. As of today, there have been only 11 acceptances for this amendment, and it has not yet entered into force, which means indicating that it's still pending. So in response, parties adopted a resolution to allow the provisional application of the 2009 amendment, and it enables countries that declare the provisional application to export CO2 streams for the purpose of permanent sequestration in subseabed. Currently, 8 parties have declared a provisional application. Furthermore, the first bilateral agreement between Belgium and Denmark was notified to the IMO in late 2022. Even prior to the first amendment of LP in 2006, parties developed the CCS guidance, which is the risk assessment and management framework. Subsequently, parties established specific guidelines to further elaborate the assessment process of CO2 streams. According to the London Protocol and these specific guidelines, CO2 streams must undergo a rigorous 8-step process to receive a permit for dumping. Rather than explaining every step detailed here, I just wanted to emphasize that these steps are developed to address the risks associated with CO2 sequestration in subseabed geological formations across all time scales. As a result, these guidelines' main focus is to deal with the potential effects on the marine environment near the receiving formations. In addition, in 2013, parties established the guidelines on the export of CO2 streams. So now, countries interested in the exporting and receiving of CO2 streams between each other can do so by declaring the provisional application of 2009 amendment and signing an agreement or arrangement. And such an agreement or arrangement should include confirmation and allocation of permitting responsibilities between the exporting and receiving countries. Additionally, parties that entered into force such an agreement or arrangement must notify the IMO. And in this page, I'm happy to inform you that we have presenters from IEA GHG, and we can see him in the picture. Yeah, he seems very focusing in the meeting. Yeah. So, in conclusion, so far we've seen the rapidly increasing interest in CCS and the London Protocol and its guidelines. Over the past years, we have accumulated much more experiences in implementing CCS projects and guidelines compared to when the specific guidelines of CCS were developed. It was 17 years ago. This accumulated experience is really important in determining what to do for the next step and in determining whether updates the guidelines are needed. With that, we have been sharing the experiences and questions actively at the meetings of governing bodies and scientific groups meetings. Particularly, last year, parties established a correspondence group on experiences with the CCS guidelines, co-led by Australia and Japan. And we also established the working group on CCS during the meeting this week. These groups and discussions have been facilitating further sharing of experiences. In this regard, I believe sharing and exchanging more experiences and questions on the guidelines at today's symposium really matter as well. And I hope we can get more insights from truly interesting presentations lined up today. Now, I think I've covered everything necessary for a brief introduction today. I really hope you have an interesting day. Thank you for your attention. And now I will hand back to the chair for today.